Hey, happy Wednesday. It's time once again for our midweek message, a time when I have an opportunity to share a little bit about what's going on in the life of Smoky Point Community Church, as well as hopefully share some words of encouragement for you as we walk through this really crazy time together. But first, Jeff's car care tip of the week. By the way, are you tired of Jeff? Because he has no friends, no family. I can get rid of him pretty quickly. So this whole thing started off with a shirt I got, and it seemed like some fun, but maybe by this point you're a little bit tired of Jeff. If so, why don't you just write some notes at the bottom of this thing after you watch it and let me know. Should we keep Jeff around or should we get rid of him? I'd be interested. But for this week, we're going to talk filters, air filters specifically, the air filter for your car and the cabin filter for the inside. When was the last time you changed your air filter? It's not one of those things we think about very often. There's not like a little light that comes on that says change your filters, but recommended about once a year you do this, and if you don't, your car is not going to be very happy. It wants some clean air inside, and your passengers wouldn't mind some clean air on the inside as well. And so I want to encourage you, take some time, change your filter out. It's pretty easy. You open up your hood, and inside you should find a plastic box in there. Inside there you're going to find your air filter for your engine, and not very expensive, really easy. 5 minutes you can have it in and out. And then your cabin filter, sometimes it's in the engine compartment, oftentimes it's inside the car, maybe around the glove compartment, and you just pull that thing out, replace it, and you're going to have some nice clean air both for your engine and inside your car. Your car will thank you. So take an opportunity and do that. Hey, getting on to church stuff. This coming Friday night at 7 o'clock, guys, there's going to be a meet-up-a-zuma. Yeah, I know, it's kind of a goofy word, but it kind of puts together what's going to be going on. You're going to be doing some barbecuing at home, sharing some pictures, bragging a little bit about what you made, as well as at 7 o'clock joining together on a Zoom call, and just have an opportunity to talk a little bit, connect with some other guys in the church. It's just an opportunity, once again, for us to sort of break out from this isolation and just spend some time, laugh a little bit. And so I want to encourage you this Friday night, 7 o'clock, make something on the barbecue and participate in the Zoom. After this, there's a link that you can just click, and that will take you into that Zoom call, and I want to encourage you to take an opportunity and plug in. It's just another opportunity for us to be together as guys and as a church to connect during this time. Also, I want to let you know, just a little reminder for everyone with a mom, that Mother's Day is coming up in less than 2 weeks. So it's on Sunday the 10th. And, this year is one of those years when we may not be able to go out and do the traditional things you've done, go out to eat somewhere. And so I want to encourage you now, start planning and preparing to do something special for Mom. Maybe you can get together with your kids and just think through what's a way that we can really bless Mom, especially during this season that may be requiring even more from her. So think up something, be creative, and put some time and energy. Don't start on Saturday night. Come up with a plan of how you're going to bless Mom this Mother's Day. And hopefully you've been joining us on the weekends at 10 o'clock as we hear from God's Word, as we worship together, as we interact online together. I want to encourage you to plug into those times. I think it's important to have a sense of community in doing this together separately. There's something about doing this. Because here's the thing. I've heard people say the church is shut down. The church is not shut down. We're still operating. We're still together. Yeah, we can't meet together physically, but spiritually we're still together. We're still in unity, and we're still worshiping the same God. And so I want to encourage you to plug in and be a part of that. And again, if you ever have a need, if there's some way we can serve you or your family, please let us know, all right? We want to serve you. We want to walk through this with you. We don't want you to feel like you're doing this alone, all right? One thing that I want to encourage you with this week comes just right out of God's Word. It's found in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, and in this chapter, Paul is talking about the gospel. He's talking about the good news of Jesus, and then he acknowledges the fact that God has placed that treasure in these, what he calls jars of clay. In other words, these bodies we live in, they don't last very long, and they're weak and fragile, kind of like a jar of clay. And at the end of that chapter, he says something I think is very applicable to our current circumstances. And he says this in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 16. So we do not lose heart. Though our outward self is wasting away, our inner self is being renewed day by day. For this light and momentary affliction is preparing for us an eternal weight of glory beyond all comparison, as we look not to the things that are seen, but to the things that are unseen. For the things that are seen are transient, but the things that are unseen are eternal. Right? He's talking about the perspective that we have of the things we walk through. He says, listen, we can focus on the things that we see, and right now, in our current circumstances, what we see is a lot of varying information about what's going on with this virus, about what's going on in our world, about whether we should or should not go back to life as normal. And we see a lot of signs that are kind of discouraging around us. You go to a grocery store, you go out and the streets are empty, and that's what you see with your eyes. And Paul writes, and he says, listen, don't focus on what you see, but on what is unseen, not on what is transient or what comes and goes, but what is eternal. Not the temporary, but what lasts. And I think that's a good perspective, because sometimes I think our lives get out of focus and we begin focusing on what we see, what we experience, the here, the now, and we get so caught up in how we feel about what's going on here and now, we lose sight altogether of what really matters, of what lasts, of what is eternal. I don't know about you, but I kind of feel like during this season, like the lines between what's important and what's not important have been more clearly drawn. I feel like with many things sort of taken out of the picture, it's made me focus more on time with family and just simple things like having dinner together and the significance of that. And some of those things that are not really that important, which restaurant we're going to go out to, or this thing or that thing, suddenly it sort of fades into the background. And maybe that's true for you as well. Maybe it's become a little bit more clear to you some things that are important, that are valuable, and those things that are not. And I pray these are lessons that we don't leave behind when we move out of this season. I think God has given us an opportunity right now, this light and momentary affliction. Now, listen, that's not saying that it's not important, it's not significant. It's just saying in comparison, it's light. And in comparison to eternity, it's momentary. It's not going to last forever. And it's just giving us perspective on this whole thing. And I just want to encourage you as you walk through yet another week in this season, and as we all await news about what's going to happen next week, what's going to go on, what's going to open, what's not. I just want to remind you to keep your focus on what's eternal, not on what's transient, not on what comes and goes, because this thing, it's going to go. It's not going to be around forever. But I pray that the lessons we learn, that the priorities we've figured out during this time, that we would carry those on when this is all done. At least as a church, I plan to do things a little bit different in the months and the years ahead. As a result of this time, I plan to maybe slow down a little bit and not try to keep pace as a church with the craziness of our society. But maybe we could reorder our priorities around what matters, around what is eternal. And the last thing I checked, the only thing that's eternal are our people. And so I pray that you would really invest your time in people this week and not focus on what you see, but on what you don't see, on what's eternal, on what's to come with God. I pray that you'd be encouraged by that this week, and that it would keep your perspective and your focus where it ought to be. Hey, this weekend, I hope to see you once again as we worship. I'm going to be sharing a message as we talk a little bit more about what it means to cast your cares on Him. I was writing a paper for school this last week, and it asked me, what are some of my life lessons? What are some of the most significant things I've ever learned in my life? And I found myself writing that one of those things had to do with a period in my life where I really discovered what it really means to cast my cares on Him because He cares for me. And I thought, man, if that's one of my lifelong lessons, we probably need to talk about it. And I need to share that with you as we walk through this season. What does it look like to truly cast your cares on Him, believing that He cares for you? So we'll talk about that this weekend as we worship together. I pray God's blessing over you. Have a great week. I love you guys.